It was the annual United Way dinner and dance, celebrating the companies that contributed the most and the individuals who achieved 100% participation in the campaign. This year, the campaign goal had been exceeded, setting a cheerful mood for everyone. The buffet offered a variety of popular dishes from the town's finest restaurants, while the cash bar, despite its pricey drinks, always attracted long lines. Helen felt proud of her husband, Dale, who had spearheaded the campaign at his workplace. Before they left for the event, she had shown him her dress choice for the evening, which was a bit more revealing than her usual attire for their date nights together. Dale looked at her with admiration and remarked, "You look stunning. It's hard to believe that a body as beautiful as yours has given us 2 college-aged kids. Helen, you're even more gorgeous than when I first met you." Helen appreciated her husband's compliment, but he had always been generous with his praise over the years, acknowledging her appearance, her role as a parent, her contributions at home, and their partnership in marriage. She considered herself fortunate to have Dale as her husband. Helen also couldn't help but feel grateful for the changes her body had undergone after having children, particularly the enhancement from a 32B to a 34C bust size. Sometimes, she wondered if her college dating experiences would have been different had she possessed her current figure back then. However, maintaining her waist at 30 inches had been a challenge, and she preferred not to dwell on the appearance of her rear. Helen avoided full-length mirrors, especially when she felt self-conscious. Another part of Helen pondered whether her husband's admiration was solely due to their marital bond, leading him to feel obligated to compliment her. During the first 10 years of their marriage, she had been a homemaker. In the last 12 years, she had joined the workforce, but most of her colleagues were women. Among them, discussions often revolved around receiving flattery from men other than their spouses, which seemed to be highly valued. Some women hinted at receiving nonverbal and even explicit attention from other men, which made Helen crave similar recognition. Although she entertained fantasies about being desired by other men, she remained faithful to her marriage, understanding the importance of loyalty despite her occasional thoughts. During the car ride, Helen inquired about Dale's chances for the upcoming promotion. Dale expressed uncertainty, noting that he didn't want to get his hopes up, considering his past experiences with Greg. He emphasized that their future wasn't solely dependent on this promotion and asked Helen not to bring up the topic with Greg during the event. Upon arriving at the ballroom, they found their designated table and were surprised that Greg, Dale's boss, wasn't seated with them. They were informed that it was intentional to encourage mingling among attendees. Helen noticed Greg at another table accompanied by his much younger wife, whom some referred to as his trophy wife. Throughout the evening, Helen enjoyed the buffet, sampled various dishes, and indulged in wine provided by Dale. The pleasant atmosphere, combined with engaging conversations, put her in a relaxed mood. She received compliments about her appearance from men she met, although she suspected they were merely polite gestures. Observing the dance floor, Helen noticed that the band primarily played fast songs, which made her hesitant to join in. However, she eagerly awaited the slower dances. Dale mingled with other guests, demonstrating his popularity among them. During a slow dance, Greg surprised Helen by asking her to dance. She was flattered by the invitation from the handsome man, speculating that Greg might have intended it as a favor to Dale. Despite her initial surprise, she accepted the offer and enjoyed the dance before returning to her table to continue conversations with fellow attendees. As Helen scanned the room, she couldn't help but notice Greg's wife captivating a group of men with her charm and, well-endowed, unrestrained assets. Her pride in her own 34C breasts waned. Meanwhile, Dale remained engrossed in conversation with a group of men, seemingly oblivious to the dancing around him, which left Helen feeling somewhat neglected by her husband. Greg led her onto the dance floor, demonstrating his skill as they swayed to the music. Despite her initial apprehension, Helen found comfort in his embrace and was captivated by his intoxicating cologne. She decided to relax and enjoy the moment, feeling it was Dale's loss that another man appreciated dancing with her. She was relieved to see other couples dancing more intimately than she and Greg. In a whisper, Greg expressed his admiration for Helen's beauty and figure, stunning her with his compliments. His words fulfilled her desire for attention, especially coming from such a handsome man. Helen was taken aback but flattered by Greg's insistence on her beauty and chose to remain silent, continuing to dance. The conversation shifted to Dale's potential promotion at work, with Greg revealing that Dale was one of two candidates under consideration. Helen, going against Dale's earlier advice, expressed her hope for Dale to get the promotion, emphasizing his hard work and its positive impact on their lives. Greg, appreciating her willingness to support Dale, hinted at her potential role in influencing his decision. Helen eagerly offered to share her perspective on Dale's qualities to aid Greg in making his decision. "I appreciate your offer, Greg, but that's not something I can agree to," Helen responded firmly, drawing back from him. Greg's expression softened, but his eyes still held a hint of longing. "Please, Helen. I've desired you for so long. Tonight could be perfect for both of us. You'll help Dale get his promotion, and I'll finally experience the intimacy I've yearned for with you. I assure you, the pleasure I can give you will be worth it. But I must emphasize, this is a one-time offer, just for tonight. I need to announce the promotion tomorrow." As Greg pulled her closer, Helen felt a rush of conflicting emotions. She could sense his arousal pressing against her, and part of her responded to his touch despite her reservations. She tried to pull away, but Greg's firm grip and the sensation of his body against hers made it difficult for her to resist. "Greg, this isn't what I meant when I said I'd do anything for Dale," Helen protested, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Just dance with me for now, Helen," Greg urged, his lips grazing her neck and earlobes in a tantalizing manner. Helen felt a wave of desire and excitement wash over her, clouding her judgment. She wrestled with her thoughts, considering the financial benefits Dale's promotion could bring and the temptation of fulfilling a long-held fantasy. As the dance came to an end, Helen met Greg's gaze, knowing what he expected. Their kiss was passionate, fueled by desire and the allure of the forbidden. Despite her inner turmoil, Helen couldn't deny the rush of exhilaration coursing through her veins. Yet, as they broke apart, she couldn't shake the nagging doubts and uncertainties clouding her mind. "I'm not sure I can do this, Greg," Helen admitted, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Where would we?" Greg could sense Helen's hesitation, but he also felt confident that she was on the verge of agreeing. "Don't worry about the details, I'll take care of everything. Just let me know your answer when the next slow dance starts, and I promise to make you happy if you say yes," he whispered, his voice laced with anticipation. They parted ways, and Greg escorted Helen back to her table, where Dale had rejoined them. As Dale engaged in conversation with another man, Helen found it hard to focus on their discussion. Her thoughts were consumed by the decision she had to make and the anticipation of what might transpire later with Greg. The lingering arousal from their dance only intensified as she imagined being with him. Determined to help her husband, Helen made up her mind. When the next slow dance began, Helen sought out Greg without hesitation. Their unspoken understanding was evident in their shared glance, and without a word, they left the ballroom. In a nearby hotel room, their clothes quickly vanished, and Greg hovered over Helen, his naked body pressed against hers. As they came together, Helen felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension, but the pleasure soon overwhelmed any reservations she had. Greg's size and intensity surprised her, yet she found herself urging him on, craving more of the pleasure he offered. Despite the urgency of their encounter, Helen was swept away by the intensity of their connection. In a whirlwind of passion, they reached climax together, their bodies entwined in ecstasy. Afterward, as they caught their breath, Helen expressed her gratitude to Greg, but also emphasized the need for discretion. Greg, although reluctant to part ways, respected her decision and promised to keep their encounter a secret. As they returned to the table, Helen's mind raced with conflicting emotions, but she was relieved that their tryst had gone unnoticed. Helen felt a surge of panic, fearing that her actions might somehow be written on her face. But Dale wasted no time before seizing her hand, eager to share some exciting news with her. They stepped into the hallway together, where Dale was practically bursting with excitement. "Helen, you won't believe it," Dale began, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. "I've been talking to J.R. Collins, the owner of our biggest competitor. He's been grooming his son to take over the business, but his son wants to pursue other interests. So, J.R. is looking for someone to take over so he can retire. He's offering me the vice presidency immediately, with the opportunity to take over in the next 5 years if I do well. And the salary is almost double what I'm making now." Helen's expression was a mix of emotions, and Dale couldn't help but notice her concern. "Aren't you happy?" he asked. "But what about the promotion and Greg?" Helen's voice trembled with uncertainty. "Why does Greg matter?" Dale's tone was dismissive. "I've resigned already. Greg can't hold that over me anymore. I'm thrilled for us, for our family." He pulled Helen close and kissed her. But the kiss felt off to Dale, who suddenly realized he tasted something unusual on her lips. It hit him like a wave of shock. He had tasted this before, after Helen had performed oral sex on him. It wasn't his. Helen saw the recognition in Dale's eyes and felt a wave of shame wash over her. "Greg's, I assume," Dale stated with a hint of anger. Helen attempted to deny it, claiming it was from dessert, but Dale saw through her facade. "Greg told me weeks ago that I could have the promotion if he could have sex with you," Dale revealed. "I turned him down because I believed you were worth more than any job. Clearly, you didn't agree." Helen pleaded with Dale, explaining that she did it for their future. But Dale's response was cold and final. "If you want to do something for me, find another place to live and sign the papers when they come," he said, before adding that she would need to take a taxi, as she no longer had a home. Crushed, Helen collapsed to the floor in tears. Epilogue. Dale's phone rang, and he answered with a terse greeting. It was Arthur, Helen's father, calling at an unusual hour. Despite his initial reluctance, Dale decided to listen, curious about what Helen might have told her father about the events of the previous night. "Thank you for speaking with me, Dale. Helen has confessed everything to me. I'm utterly ashamed of her actions. It makes me sick to my stomach. I'm thankful her mother isn't here to witness this. What can I do to assist, Arthur? Could you please bail her out?" "Bail her out? Helen is in jail? What happened? I suppose you haven't heard what transpired after you left. Apparently, she blamed Greg for her betrayal of you. She returned to the banquet, grabbed a table knife, and proceeded to stab Greg in his private area multiple times before someone intervened. There was quite a bit of blood, and they're unsure if he'll have permanent damage. Helen was arrested for aggravated assault. I don't understand. Can't you afford to bail her out?" "I can, but that's not the issue. She mentioned that if you don't bail her out, she'd prefer to stay in." The clarity with which Dale had justified leaving Helen earlier now seemed hazy. Greg was the primary wrongdoer, yet Dale hadn't sought revenge himself. Helen had taken matters into her own hands. On one hand, he thought, good for her. But it left a lingering question: what do I do now about Helen? Helen was informed that her husband had posted bail for her. She was required to wear an ankle bracelet. While she appreciated Dale's action, she knew true happiness was still a distant prospect. She received an envelope with money and a note instructing her to take a taxi to the Holiday Inn Express, where a room awaited her. Dale asked her to call when she was ready to retrieve some of her belongings and requested that she wait to discuss what had happened. Following Dale's instructions, Helen called in sick to work and arranged to collect her belongings and car while Dale was at his job, assuming he went to work. Dale surprised his colleagues by actually showing up at work. The news of the incident had spread, and everyone avoided him. Knowing Greg was still hospitalized, Dale headed to his own office first and packed a box with his personal items. On his way out, he stopped by Greg's office and left his official letter of resignation on his desk. After locking the door for a few minutes, he left with a smirk on his face. It was hours later when Greg's secretary noticed the odor. In addition to his resignation letter, Dale had left a fecal deposit on Greg's chair. The staff took turns taking photos before the janitor was called to remove the source of the smell. Not much work was accomplished for the rest of the day. Helen chuckled when Dale recounted what he had done. Then, she confessed, "I'm sorry for betraying you. I can't blame it solely on your promotion. I succumbed to temptation. Greg tempted me, but giving in was my own fault. I won't contest a divorce if that's your decision. I'd appreciate if you wrote to me while I'm in prison just to keep me informed about how you're doing and your new job. I know it's hard to believe, but I never stopped loving you. You deserve a better wife than me. Now, I hope you can move on, find someone better, and lead a happy life." Helen, I spent nearly 24 hours hating you more than anyone in my life, probably because I've loved you more than anyone. When I heard about what happened with Greg, I realized you did what I should have done. Greg was the real villain in this. My anger was misplaced because you mattered most to me. I must admit, I admired your actions. If I had done what I should have, our roles might be reversed now. I owe you a debt of gratitude. Helen, I'll stay in touch. I'm unsure about our marriage or future, but for the sake of our children, I want it to be positive. I'll be there at your trial and cover your legal expenses. There won't be a trial, Dale. I'm pleading guilty. I did it. Don't waste money on me. Taxpayers will cover my expenses. Good thing I look good in orange. Helen, the motive behind your action will affect your sentence. It depends on the damage to his genitals. If severe, I hope for the maximum sentence. She grinned. Greg's genital damage was severe. He could still urinate, but erections were painful. His trophy wife left, taking money and jewelry, while J.R. Collins Incorporated gained market share. Dale's absence hurt Greg's business, leading to its acquisition within 3 years. Dale and Helen's correspondence focused on daily life, avoiding discussions about their past or future. Helen learned Dale was dating but refrained from asking for details. Upon release, a limo took Helen to an apartment with a note outlining a fresh start, an apartment, car, and job at J.R. Collins Incorporated, where Dale was now CEO. While a compassionate gesture, it left their relationship status uncertain. During orientation, Helen chose a job and learned the CEO wanted to meet her, raising hopes for clarity. Helen approached her meeting with Dale with uncertainty, prepared to accept whatever he decided. She felt grateful for the positive turn her life had taken since her release. As they sat together, emotions overwhelmed both of them, leading to tears and a heartfelt embrace. After composing themselves, Dale mentioned travel requirements for Helen's new job and insisted she spend the next Memorial Day holiday with their children and grandchildren. Touched by his gesture, Helen expressed her gratitude, acknowledging the fresh start Dale had provided. In their conversation, Helen confessed her ongoing sense of guilt and the feeling that she hadn't been adequately punished for her betrayal. She asked Dale what her punishment from him would be. Dale admitted that while her betrayal still hurt, he couldn't think of any punishment that wouldn't hurt him too. Despite the pain, he found solace in the thought of what she had done to Greg. The discussion led to the question of their marriage's status and its underlying reasons. Helen, I struggled with the idea of filing for divorce. I thought if I found someone else, it might lead to divorcing you. You've probably heard about my dates with other women. They were nice, but none felt like the one I could spend my life with. In the last couple of years, I gave up on dating, waiting to talk to you. Helen's hopes rose. Are we going to talk about us now? This isn't the right place or time. Let's pick a day and discuss it at home. I thought you might need some time first. Not really. I've had time to think at the Gray Resort. I'm ready whenever you are. They agreed on Friday at 7 o'clock. Helen arrived punctually in a dress too big for her smaller frame. Dale complimented her and offered wine. Helen teased, "You know wine makes me want to cheat on my husband, right?" She watched for Dale's reaction. He poured wine, saying, "I'll take my chances." After a pause, Dale said, "You said you knew what to say. Please go ahead." "Dale, I love you. That's the most important thing. But my actions betrayed you. I understand if you can't forgive me. If you want me to leave, I will. You deserve happiness. Since you haven't divorced me and have helped me, I think you're unsure about us. Your support gives me hope for our future. I'm ready for the next stage of my life, whatever it may be. I want you to be part of it, as husband, friend, or just friend. But if you stay my husband, you have to be real." My turn. Helen, I never stopped loving you. I should have told you about Greg's offer. What you did was wrong, and I feel guilty for not protecting you. I don't know our future, but I can't imagine it without you. I'd like any of the options I mentioned before. Wow, Helen, you drive a hard bargain. How about we date again for a while? Would you expect us to have sex? Maybe by the third date. Deal. Wait, Dale. Is this our first date? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel not to miss new videos.